You are listening to the new man beyond the macho jerk and the new age wimp. Your host is men's coach Tripp Lanier.
Do you think you have to do something terrifying in order to make a big career change? Are you bored because you're settling for the opportunities that come to you? And what would it be like if you knew how to create your own opportunities? Mike Kelly is the founder of Member Vault, and he's also a coaching client of mine. Today, he's going to discuss his path from the 9-to-5 job to starting his own company while traveling the country with his wife and son. Before we jump into this interview, I want to point out that over the past year, my guest, Mike Kelly, was a member of my Authority coaching group. This is a small group. There's only 6 guys in it from various locations on the planet. We meet 3 times per month via video call. Each week, we drill into what really matters and then clarify what's going to get done. We then create agreements and hold one another accountable to follow through. If this sounds like something that would benefit you, then visit thenewmanpodcast.com and look for a red banner that will tell you what to do next. Let's jump into the interview. Welcome to The New Man. Today we're talking with Mike Kelly. He's the founder of Member Vault, and you can learn more about Member Vault by visiting membervault.co. He's also a coaching client. He's one of the guys that I talk to every week in the coaching groups that I lead virtually. So Mike, welcome. Thanks for talking today.
Thank you, Tripp.
I'm looking at you right now. The listeners can't see you, but you're out in the woods. It looks a little like you said you got a 300-foot Douglas fir behind you. Is that what that is?
Yeah, and you, since you're looking at my screen bigger, you'll let me know if a bear's coming up, right?
I'll let you know if a bear's coming. Maybe. Okay. I don't know. It might be
right.
It might be a better interview if the bear gets closer. So
right, you could cut this video and you'll be a YouTube viral sensation.
Okay. I'm gonna err on that one. I'm not gonna err on your safety. I'm gonna err for views. That's what's more important.
You do you, Tripp.
Okay, we've known each other for a while. We've been working together. I've been your coach for a while. You just got this interesting story. I want to go kind of like bullet point style. You've been a software developer for years. You've worked with big companies and had fancy accounts and all that kind of stuff. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
And then you went out on your own as a freelancer, and you and your wife started a family off in the Pacific Northwest, and then this past year, you and your wife and your young son decided to pack everything up and live in an RV and travel and work around the country. It sounds like the most practical thing to do with a young baby.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then on top of that, you decided to launch your new company, Member Vault, which sounds kind of nuts. I got to say, it sounds a little nuts. But it wasn't even part of the. I don't know if it was really part of the plan when we started talking over a year or so ago. Maybe it was part of the plan. I just wasn't aware of it at the time. But you show up on our group coaching calls every week, and I get to see your progress and how all this is unfolding one step at a time, and it's inspiring. So today, I just want to dive in. I want to learn more about this journey that you're on. I want to see how you've designed this life with your wife, and I also want to just kind of give the listener a glimpse on how you do these things, because there's a lot of people out there that would like to do something unconventional and just start to think outside of the box and realize that, hey, with some planning and some elbow grease, you can make it happen. So that's where I want to go with you today.
Yeah, awesome. Well, it sounds crazy when I hear it back. When we do the flyover, I'm like, oh my God, what the hell am I thinking? So I think the biggest thing is that, you're like, oh, was that in the plan? None of this was in the plan until right before we did it.
Which part? Like the baby, the packing everything up and living in an RV, the
all of it. I grew up in South Jersey near Philadelphia, and it was crazy for me to even apply for a job up in New York City, which is what I did.
Why was it crazy?
It was crazy because I was underqualified for the job, hands down. I applied on like a wing and a prayer, and
did you lie on your? Would you just bullshit yourself on the?
No, I was actually pretty honest, but I mean, I showed up.
Pretty honest.
Pretty honest. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, is lying through a mission? No, no, I did. I showed up completely honestly, and I was green out of college. I had a little bit of experience in the real world, but I mean, I was super passionate. And I think they must have saw that. And so I showed up for that interview, up in New York. I had kind of a crappy portfolio. And I showed up for the interview and it went well, but I didn't think I was going to get it still because, they're looking for higher caliber people. Now, this agency was working, their clients were like MTV, Dr. Pepper, all these kind of big names.
And you were so green and you came in and you were thinking, I need to have this experience, but is it that you just had this enthusiasm and this desire to learn? That's what got you in the door?
Yeah, it must have been. And that's, so they called me back for the second interview and I was like, holy shit, this is, I didn't even think I was going to get this far. And then, and they said, and they were honest. They were like, listen, we know you're not really qualified and it's going to be a little hard going for a little bit, but if you're willing to put in the work, we're willing to invest, that into you. And and then, that started kind of the big chapter of what was next.
Well, I just like that part because that could be a place where the guy listening is at a fork in the road and he's telling himself, I can't go for what I really want because I don't have enough XYZ. I don't know this or I don't have that. And instead, a lot of times we just got to, the thing is just to show up and knock on the door. Let's see, let that other person tell us no instead of rejecting ourselves first. I like that because I don't know how many times we played this in the group, right? Just like, let's go make bold requests. Let's go try things. And we're often surprised that people say yes to things that we're just telling ourselves for sure we're going to get a no. And then people say yes to most of the time. So
Right.
You've been practicing this for a while.
And if you get a no, it's the same result as if you didn't ask, right? Like I applied to go to MIT as well. I did not get in because I didn't get 1,600 on my SATs, but I still applied, right? So it was no big deal when I got the rejection letter. I was like, oh, well, I kind of knew it, but you never know.
Yeah. I didn't know the SATs went up to 1,600. How far up?
I don't think they do.
Okay.
I think you need to if you're an MIT student, you have figured out a way to get more points than are possible. That's what I think.
I feel better now because I was like, wow, I did not do well on my SAT. Okay.
Right. You're like, I bombed that thing.
All right. So we'll kind of fast forward. You've been you were in that world for a while and then you became your own guy, right? You became a freelancer. Yeah. What was that for you? Even that would be a big step for most folks to just become a freelancer. So what was that for you?
Yeah, well, I was at that job in New York City. I was working with big accounts, and I was a programmer, right? I was just a yes man. You know what I mean? I was a company man. It was just like, hey, Mike, do these things. But what really inspired me, what really made me excited was I want to have that conversation with the clients. I want to help architect this thing and then build it, right? I don't want to just so I was getting kind of frustrated with kind of being the last guy at the end of the line, just being handed a packet and saying, here, do it. I was like, well, why are we doing it like this? We could do it better if we do it like this. And, the response was, well, we've already decided all this stuff, so just do it. And
so you didn't like being this guy that essentially didn't have a say in it. And you actually wanted to have a relationship with the person or the company that you were creating things for. That was part of the thing that would be enjoyable for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted that investment in the process as well. I didn't want to just build widgets all day and have no connection with it. Like I really wanted to understand what I was building, and I wanted to just have that connection with it.
And so did you just like how did you go about leaving the company and going on your own? Because I imagine that's pretty scary. Like, okay, I'm going to starve now.
Yeah. Now, so what I did is I took a job that was less, I took a less glamorous job on the New Jersey side of the river, which nobody does. Because I was living on the Jersey side. So I took a job that was closer to home, that would cut my commute down, and that had very kind of flexible and reasonable hours. And the reason I did that is so I could build my own business on the side, which, I started taking freelance clients. So little mom and pop shops or friends and families, and hey, I need to build a website. And so I started kind of taking jobs on the side, and it got to the point where I got to that tipping point where I was like, well, I can't take any more freelance clients because I have my 9-to-5, but I'm technically not making enough with freelance to support myself fully. And so here is one of those forks in the road, right? Where I was like, oh shit, what do I do?
And what'd you do?
And so I put my note. I figured I'm just going to choose that path and I'll figure it out. Choose the path of, taking free. I know that's where I know that's the direction I want to go. So I put in my notice and I said, hey, listen, I'm starting my own company. I was like, but I'd like to offer you, to be one of my clients. So it was kind of a ballsy,
Yeah.
nerve-wracking move to do, saying I quit, but you can become my client if you want. Uh, and they took it. And so we negotiated a rate, and of course they were just going to take my salary and like divide it by how many days. And I was like, no, because I'm paying for my own healthcare now, and there's
Oh, good for
so
you.
I just renegotiated the whole relationship. And oddly enough, the relationship got better after that because we kind of saw each other as,
Peers,
professionals.
colleagues. Yeah, professionals.
Yeah, I wasn't just their guy. So that really worked out. So they were basically my biggest client, and then I was able to take other clients on the side and kind of grow my business.
Well, I just want to back up because, again, where guys can get stuck is this all or nothing thing. Like, oh, well, I have to jump ship and then I'll drown before I can get started. You found a way to navigate both scenarios. And then even when it came time to really cut the cord, you didn't cut the cord. You just found another way to transform the relationship and build on what was already there. I think so many of us are just like, I have to burn whatever I've done up to this point. They don't see a way to integrate it, to bring it on board. And I think it's a huge mistake where we just don't see that there's a possibility to transform what we're in already. It's just so easy to be like, well, I got to burn it to the ground kind of thing. So, and what I like in there is it was a ballsy conversation. There was a gutsy conversation. That's usually the thing that gets in the way. Or that's the thing that we've got to go through to get whatever we want, is that ballsy conversation. And that's it. Like, it's not so much like I have to go take more courses and all this other stuff. Like, that helps, but it's really our ability to have these gutsy, ballsy conversations where we say what we want and we give the other person an opportunity to speak up for what they want.
Yeah, you can order off the menu. You don't have, or you can order something that's not on the menu.
Go talk to the chef, right?
Right. You can make your own burrito at Chipotle, like whatever. Like, you don't know unless, you ask. And I think that's, we all think like, well, that's not an option. I can't quit and then make them my client. And there was I had fears too. I had a fear like, yeah, they're going to say, oh, you quit. That's it. Then you're out. And now I'm like, shit, now I got to figure out how to make up that gap.
Okay.
But I just knew I would be able to do it, if I went back to putting tires on cars or whatever, like we'd figure it out.
I think that's the big thing in your mindset that I really like. And I see in folks that are doing well is that they've got this thing like, I can take a punch. I can fall down. I know what it's like to fall down. If you're not willing to fall down or you're not willing to take a punch, it's terrifying. We don't see that ourselves as able to get back up or able to find the next opportunity. And I see guys that do really well for themselves. They've been in a career for 20 years and they're making great money, but they're fragile. They don't believe that they can take a punch, and they get weak, and their ability to find other opportunities gets limited because they don't have that mentality of, I'll figure it out. They tell themselves, if I fall, then the whole thing falls apart and I'm screwed. Right. Which is a terrible mindset to have. It's extremely limiting. All right, so let's fast forward.
There's always options.
There's always options. So you did that for a while, and I think I met you. You were firmly in this freelance world, and that's where I think that we started our conversations. That there was like, okay, there's something next for me. That you were kind of getting burned out on the types of work that you were doing. You wanted to expand from there. Right. Is that right? So you kind of gone through another cycle of, okay, I'm doing this, but now there's a next thing. There's a next phase that I want to go through.
Right. In New York, I was like, hey, I really want to be involved in the whole process, and I want my own clients and blah, blah, blah. And I got all that. Right. So fast forward a couple years, I mean, I'm nailing it, and I'm getting, 6-figure years on my own. And I have pretty big clients and everything. But I was just building stuff for other people. So it was like, hey, Mike, here, build this thing, build it, and then ship it, and then I have no relationship with it from then on. And then like, hey, Mike, build this, ship it. And, I was just doing that for clients all over the place. And having clients is better than having a boss, but it's still, you're still limited, somewhat to your creativity is still limited.
Did you beat yourself up? Because sometimes we can beat ourselves up like, I should just be happy with what I got. I should just shut up and not complain versus, I recognize there's a desire here. I want to continue to grow. Did you ever go through that place where you're like, just shut up, don't just be happy with what you got, kind of thing?
Oh God, yeah. I thought there was something wrong with me. I was like, oh, man, what is wrong? Like I moved across the country, with my wife. I own my own business. Like I have enough money to buy kind of, the things I want. I'm not rich, but I'm not struggling. I'm not eating ramen noodle or anything. Um, I get to work from home. What's wrong with me? Why am I unhappy right now? Like, there's just this gut feeling that there's something like, I want more.
Yeah. I find that in the people that I work with and even in my own life, and it can be this thing like, just shut up, be happy with what you've got. And I think we can appreciate what we've got, but then also listen. What's the information here? We don't have to be the hungry ghost that's always chasing something and it's never enough. There's a shadow side to that. But then there's also just a recognition like, I'm on a growth path. I'm not done. I'm here to continue to grow and continue to learn and try new things and develop in that way. So, do we have the guts to listen to that and honor it and not be impulsive, but at the same time, be grateful for what we've got. And I want to grow. I want to see what this next thing is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right. And so is that when we started working together? Is that when you joined the group or?
Yeah, I think that's when we met. And I remember having a conversation and I was pacing around in my garage and was talking to you and I was kind of laying this all out, just brain dumping on you. And you're like, I was just kind of unhappy with my work and my clients. And you were like, well, are you reaching out and finding the clients that you want? And I was like, well, no, I just work through, recommendations and stuff like that. Like people find me. And he goes, well, then how the hell do you expect to get the clients that you want? And it was just kind of an aha moment. I was like, oh my God, yeah. Instead of just taking the stuff that came to me, and that's pretty much what I got into the cycle of doing, of just saying, hey, a job came in my email inbox. I'm going to take it because, it's a $5,000 job. I know I can do it. It'll be easy. And voila. And so that I got into that rut of doing just that.
Well, it was safe too. Just taking whatever comes along instead of I go create the work that I want. I go knock on the doors and talk to the people and kind of rattle the cage and create the opportunities that I want. Is that what it was?
Yeah, it became the energy of that 9-to-5 person, who's just going and collecting a paycheck. And I wasn't really inspired by the work anymore. And I was just going and, doing the jobs and that was it. And so, but I wasn't fired up about what I was doing anymore. And I think that's really deep down, that's what was really killing me.
Okay. And so what happened after that conversation?
Oh man. Well, the path is definitely windy. So I thought what I wanted was, and around this time, my wife got pregnant and with our first. And so now it was like, now I really can't. I was thinking about going to bike welding school. I was thinking about, like throwing the whole table up on its head and saying like, fine, maybe I don't even want to work in technology anymore. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe I'm sick of tech. But yeah, my wife got pregnant and I was like, okay, well, this is not the time to go to bike welding school. Like, we got a kid on the way.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought maybe what I wanted was to work with a team, right? Is to work at a company again. It's like, I've learned a lot over the past 8-9 years or whatever. Maybe I can go back into that world with what I know now and it'll be a better deal.
Okay.
And I kind of painted the picture of exactly the company I wanted to work for, a small boutique company doing, high-end work. And after a ridiculous amount of pitching, networking, LinkedIning, is that a word? LinkedIning?
It is now.
It is now. Yeah. Linking. I found the perfect company.
But you were the one initiating, right? You went from being you were waiting for them to contact you. You're waiting for the world to kind of figure out what you wanted to bring it to your inbox. And then you take the initiative and you start reaching out and finding the opportunities that you want. Okay.
Yeah. I took over the controls of the Etch-a-Sketch and I was like, here we go. Like, this is what I want to do now.
Nice.
And so it was cool. It was cool. And, I found the perfect company. And, I worked with them for a couple months and I just realized that it was a mistake.
And how so? Like, how did you know? How did you know it was a mistake? Because I'm glad you went down that road. You never know, right? So
you
I
never
just like,
know.
yeah.
And talk about feeling defeated, talk about like when you question yourself, you're like, oh my God, this is on paper. This is exactly what I said I wanted. Like,
Mm.
why on earth? They flew me across the country to go to a tech conference. And I was always like, oh, I want to work for a company that will fly me to a tech conference. And they did. And they were a small company and they were working with boutique, like high end small firms and stuff like that. And just didn't, again, it didn't inspire me. I found myself dreading the 9 to 5. I did not like going back to the workforce, worrying
Okay.
about vacation days and worrying about, being there 9 to 5. And I still worked remotely, but I was still on the clock.
Okay.
I still didn't have a say over what I was creating.
What was the attraction? Was it like I want to work with the cool kids, and was it more of an ego thing, or were you attracted to this idea that it would be more stable for you? What was the attraction there?
Stability was definitely part of it. I
Mm-hmm.
do think that there was a cool kid part of it as well. I ran my own podcast for about a year called The Grumpy Developer, and I interviewed people from all over the tech, industry. And I think I was jealous. I was like, oh, these guys are like big names in the field, and I want to be flying under some banner that's like high out there, because right now
Right.
I'm just a lone wolf out there, just kind of hammering out jobs for other people, and nobody even knows that I did it.
Got
I'm
it.
just doing stuff for other people, and so I do think that there's a little bit of ego in there. The stability was definitely part of it as well. Like, hey, I'll collect a paycheck, everything will be good. I won't dread tax season anymore. Like there was things I thought that would be a positive thing.
Well, I like that you went down the road and checked it out. I remember the conversations we had around that time, and it being a question mark, and I'm just like, let's go turn over the stones. Let's go see. And then you have that
Yeah.
satisfaction. If we're going to live 80, 100 years, what's a few months to go and try these things out, so that you're not always looking over your shoulder wondering. I like that you went in there. I know that it looks back. I know you look back now on it and be like, maybe it was a waste of time, but I don't know. I don't see it that way. Do you?
No, it wasn't a waste of time, not at all. I'm actually really thankful that I did it as well. I mean, yes, it did not end up working out, but there's still a bunch I learned so much, and it made me get out of my own way too. Like I feel like there's lessons that like you always kind of learn from something, like whether it be a relationship or a job or something like that, where even if it doesn't work out, you can still look back and be like what did I learn from that? And I realized that I had a huge ego and it was all about me. And like I got personally, we talked about this a lot, where I would become personally offended if someone like asked me to like do something a different way. I'm like, oh,
Mm.
you don't like the way I did it. And I was really high strung, and but taking this job, working for someone else, and being again back in that position that's very humbling, was actually good. Because it made me kind of step out of my own way and be like, all right, it's not about me, it's about the work. And am I gonna be a whiny kid about this, or am I gonna like step up and say, all right, I'm here,
Yeah.
like let me do my job.
Yeah, that's such a big deal, and I see where you got to think about what happens in our life if we're putting that kind of pressure on our job, our career, to kind of fill some hole for us.
Yeah.
Where we're no longer asking what's going to be the best thing for the work or the best thing for the client. Like, how am I serving this person? And it just becomes about me.
Right.
That's a really dangerous place, because we're not serving anymore. It's just about me. Just about, I'm here to do my thing, and I don't really care about you other than you giving me a paycheck, kind of thing. And I think it's I remember in my 20s running my video production company, and I would get so pissed off. People would come in and want to do revisions on things that I'd done for them. They were paying me to do revisions, and I was like, oh, this is so stupid. You don't get it. And like, I just, for me, I needed the work to be a certain way. It was about me, and I needed to go find another outlet for my creativity, so that the work that I was doing for them wasn't personal. And
Right.
I think it's a great lesson. Like, go have an outlet for yourself, so that you getting your rocks off isn't that big of a deal here. Can you put yourself in it, but not be attached to it if you're serving other people?
Right. And I think it was uncomfortable for me too, because I had gone, what, 9 years being the lone wolf. Like I didn't work with any other developers for the most part. Like
Mm.
I was it. I was the tech guy. It was like me and the client. So the client would say, "Hey, I want X, Y, and Z," and then I figured out how to do it. Nobody was working alongside or over me saying, "Try it a different way." You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like no one ever spoke, talked back to me basically.
Yeah.
And so it was working for a company where I was working with other developers I was under them. Like
Okay. Yeah.
it was very uncomfortable for me, and I
Yeah.
think that was good because it kicked my ass, and I mean it was exhausting.
Well, I also think it gave you some good information about where the next phase, because you came out of that and then you kind of went back into just doing your freelance stuff. But there was something you were hiding something. What were you doing? So tell us about that.
Yeah, so I had a little pet project on the side, and here's what I realized. Right, you're talking about having an outlet for your creativity. At this point, our son was born, so you know what it's like to have an infant around. My wife also works from home. She has her own business, working with clients, mostly in the kind of the social media, online business realm. But she has her own clients, and so we were kind of balancing the whole work thing and balancing the work thing and the kid thing. And so we
Mm-hmm.
were both freelancing. We were both, juggling the kid and everything and trying to figure it out. And, but yeah, there was that one point where I was like, where I decided this wasn't working for me. But I found myself working on this pet project on the side whenever I clocked out of my day job. Like whenever I clocked out of working at this job and I had like 30 more minutes, I would log in. And so for about a year, I was building this course membership platform.
Which is what, and like who uses that? Who was it? Teachers or what is that?
Well, anyone who has an online course, right? Whether it be an online course or online membership site, anything where you're delivering a knowledge product, right?
Okay.
So this is a huge sector right now. There's so many. If I wanted to teach a course on how to write code or something like that,
Okay.
you don't have to write a book anymore. You can host a course and you can sell that course and you can have different levels and you could, do all this thing. And,
All right.
but you need a platform to build that on.
Okay.
And there are some existing platforms out there, but they were missing stuff for me. And I was like,
Because you were a teacher, or because you were a user, you were a student on these platforms? Like, I'm just curious how you came up with this idea.
sure, I was a student, but I also, and again, a lot of credit to my wife as well, because her client that she was working with was a teacher. And so, so there was a lot of influences in making this and saying like, okay, well, great. So we don't like this platform because of X, Y, and Z. We don't like this platform because of X, Y, and Z. And so like, okay, what are these platforms missing?
Right.
Or what do they have that we don't need? What are
Mhm.
we overpaying for? And there's, things like that. And so you kind of come up with your own recipe. And we had built this originally for one of my wife's clients. But we built it at a really low price and we kept the IP, the rights to keep developing it. So,
Mhm.
she had like the very first beta of it, basically. It was just a custom piece of software for her.
Right.
And then over the year, we just kept incrementing on it. We kept getting that feedback, and users would say, I like this, but what about this? And teachers would come back and say, what about this? And then we added a couple more users, a couple more teachers to it. And so it started to evolve into this thing where people were coming to us asking for it. They're saying, what is this platform? I don't recognize this. Like, it's really nice.
And so, were you still in hiding at this time? First off, I want to just this mindset, right? Of, hey, what's working, what's not working, what are we overpaying? Like, just instead of just complaining and being like, these platforms suck, like recognizing, oh, here's the opportunity. What's the thing I'd be excited to pay for? A lot of us just don't work on that. We're good at complaining and good at bitching and moaning, but we don't see that, hey, there's just a way to turn this to create something out of this. So I want to highlight that. But then, were you still in hiding around this? Was it still, like, you called it a pet project? I mean, did you still kind of stuffing it in the back?
I was in total hiding. I mean, we gave it a name.
Why were you hiding?
Oh man, Tripp, I don't know. I mean, in now looking back on it, I think I was hiding because I was scared. I was scared, right?
What?
I was scared of putting it out there in the world and having people like I had like these kind of vivid visions of like, you know, taking this seriously and putting like all my force behind it and pushing it out into the stage, and then people being like, that other platform's still better, you know? And then nobody signing up or buying it. And now I've just put all my energy into this thing and attached myself to this thing that's just a big failure.
Well, it's interesting. Like that would be it, right? Like I'm a failure. This thing's a failure. This thing's a failure. Therefore, I'm a failure. There's that personal piece again.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't seem like in that mindset that you could respond and just use that feedback to make something better. It's just like, oh, that was it. That was my one shot. I'm done. I gotta go back to doing laundry and cleaning the dishes. So
right.
So that's the small mindset, right? And when we're in hiding, that small mindset is usually the one that's running the show there. It doesn't make sense. Like when we start to talk about it out in the open. So at some point in the coaching call, you brought it up. I'm trying to remember when that was. Like,
yeah, I forget. I mean, I had quit the other job that I thought was going to be the grand thing, and I was still doing some freelance on the side. Just kind of patching it together. I was in rebuilding mode, and I think in one of the coaching calls, I had talked about, because we were starting to build some momentum with it, but it was still very hidden. It was still only like 3 people using this. There was only like 3 clients using this software, but I was getting excited because I enjoyed working on it. I enjoyed people. This is how I knew it was the right thing, because I enjoyed people telling me what was wrong with it. Saying like, hey, is there a way I can do this? Like, I can't seem to do X, Y, and Z. And then I'd go back and I built the whole thing from scratch. So I was able to be like, oh, okay, that's a good point. I never thought about that. And so I would go and fix it or engineer a way around it and say, all right, perfect. Now I would push a release out there, and then everyone would get it and gobble it up. And
so instead of getting defensive, like, oh, how could you, my baby's perfect.
Yeah.
I only want to use it. I only want people that think my thing is perfect. You were like, oh, cool. This is great feedback. I can make it even better now.
Yeah, exactly. So it became really exciting, where I was like, and now I had this baby, but I got to like increment it, and I got to build it up slowly, and I got to like every time I touched it, it got better, And so I shared it on the group, on the coaching call, and then you were like, wait, time out. Like, what is this thing? And here I was sitting on this kind of big idea, but I was still locked in the basement. Like, there's still only a couple people that knew about it.
Because you were afraid to waste time. You were afraid to fail, but you had a minimal viable product here. You were already doing it, but you were still, it was like you were in the closet about it. Like, what the hell?
Yeah. I was totally hiding out.
What happened whenever we kind of shined the light on you and the fact that you were actually developing your own product?
I mean, it was inspiring, but it was also terrifying as well.
Why?
And the thought of putting both feet in that canoe, instead of straddling, like saying, okay, hey, this is something that you enjoy working on. It's definitely got legs, right? People are already using it and liking it. Like, why on earth wouldn't you open it up and take this thing for real and see where it can go? And I was just scared. I was scared to do that. I was scared that it wasn't going to be enough, or I was scared that 5 people would get on and then it would break down, or I was just scared. I was scared of the work it might take. It's pretty easy to build stuff for other people. And then, you're just like the guy behind the scenes, and you just snap it together and push it out the door.
Yeah. Well, I think that's it. Like that comes up for us. Even the thing that we feel really called to do, and it's natural for us to do, like you said, like in your spare time, you would do it and you enjoy it. It doesn't mean that it's all going to be green lights. And I think a lot of us are looking for all the green lights as an indicator that this is where I should go and this is what I should do. And instead, it's usually the thing we're really freaking scared to do. And it's just like when we talk about like, oh, you do this, put it out in the world, like, oh God, they throw up or whatever. It's just like, But that's it. Like that, there's that step. Joseph Campbell says, you're walking the path and it's somebody else's path. We enter the darkest, deepest, darkest part of the woods. So, yeah, it's not romantic and beautiful and easy. We will find that part in us where we're going to resist it. And so I love how you illustrated that. Like it just showed up in that way, even though you had this calling. Like it was just, there was a flow state for you to create this thing. But that doesn't mean that it was going to naturally happen. You were going to find your edge there, and you did.
Oh my God. And, and taking it seriously, when I finally did put, both feet in and put all my force behind it, I remember there was this kind of pivotal moment again where I had a freelance job, like a $10,000 job, which is, I would have gobbled that up back in the day. And I was so iffy about taking it. I was half invested in it, but then I was like, if I take this, I know it's going to take time away from Member Vault. And I don't want to do that. Even though that's a sure thing money, Member Vault is not. I found myself at that fork in the road again. And, I turned down that job. And that was a big moment for me internally to say, I just said no to a $10,000 freelance job that I knew was a sure thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I could use $10,000. There's no doubt. Right.
Sure.
But I still said no to it because it just didn't feel right. I was like, no, I want to put my force behind this. And I mean, just to truth talk for a minute, it's not like it got instantly better with Member Vault, right? Like putting it out there in the world. I got on calls, like free calls where I would, pretty much favor calls. I called in a bunch of favors to talk to professionals in the field of online education and bounced ideas back off and had them check it out. And it was brutal.
Yeah.
It was brutal. I got told, yeah, I guess it's okay. Or
this is what you were afraid of.
This is exactly what I was afraid
and you
of.
went right into it.
Mm-hmm. Here I am on calls with people saying like, yeah, I guess, but why would anyone use, right. They didn't say that exactly, but they said that.
Yeah.
And just like and getting an email back with like a laundry list of things that are wrong with it or that it's missing. And I was like, oh God, what did I do?
Well, that's what it is. Like you could collapse to that stuff and make it personal and I'm a failure and all this kind of stuff, or approach the world like I'm here to only be adored, or like I'm going to go into the place like what's necessary for this thing to thrive. I'm going to go talk to the best people. I'm going to get feedback from them. I'm going to go create the product that would be a killer for them. So I just love how you kept stepping into it. That's where we challenged you, and that's where you went. You took that initiative and you just went in there, went into the places you were scared to go, and you've just gotten stronger and stronger as a result. You didn't come to the calls like, hey, how can I hide out better? How can I protect myself better? It was always about where's the thing that's going to make this better, and where can I just get out of the way?
Yeah, and the support was so essential, because it was again, and they're still to this day, right? Like we're on an upward path, and we're past that beginning stage now. Like we are being taken seriously. We are seeing a huge influx of users, and we have these positive feedback loops, and everything's going really good right now. And there's still days where I'm like, I should just delete the whole thing. Like, yeah, I should just throw in the towel because it's like getting to that next level is going to be that much harder.
Well, there was another phase that you went through where you were the guy that we were like, oh, I'm just the guy writing the code. Yeah. And then I was like, that's bullshit. You're the guy that's so passionate about it that it's infectious. You're fun. You're funny. You're the guy with the story. Like, I don't even use this software, but it's not part of my world, but I'm just like, I just love hearing you talk about it for some reason. Like there's an infectious thing about it. And it was another thing of like, no, you go talk about this. Don't hide behind somebody else. Nobody's going to talk about it as well as you can. That was another edge for you to be the face for this thing.
Oh God. Yeah. Yeah, so that was another thing is I just wanted to be the engineer. Like I'll be the guy building
more safety, right?
Yeah, I'll be Wozniak. I'm not Jobs. You know what I mean? Like I'm just gonna build the thing in the garage, but somebody else go out and sell it because that's not my strong suit.
Right. I remember you showing up with that bullshit too.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you called it. You called it bullshit. Yeah, and sure enough though, and I was like, but that was my edge, right? That was my next edge. Was like, how do I go out there and put my face and name on it and say, hey, I'm representing this, this software, this company. Here I am, and let's talk about this. And I was huge. And so, I mean, I've been I'm in the middle of a swing of 30 days of Facebook Live interviews where I've reached out to people who scare the crap out of me to come on and talk on my Facebook Live show about online courses and engagement and stuff like that. And there's terrifying. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
But slowly but surely it's getting easier and better. And I keep finding that edge and keep asking the person that's going to, might say no. And I have gotten no's, right? Like there's been people who are like, talk to my assistant. Maybe I'll get you in October.
Mm-hmm. I just want to come back to this idea of terrifying. It's come up and we all buy into this idea. There's a part of us that if we're unconscious, we really think that we're in danger, and we're not. Like we're really not. It's our ego that's up for, being disappointed or taken down a notch or whatever. But I just find it's far more powerful when I'm in that place and I feel that quote terrifying thing to remind myself, this isn't life threatening. This isn't a firefighter heading up into a burning building. This isn't a police officer responding to, shots fired thing. There are people out there that are risking their lives every day, really risking their lives. This shit we're talking about here, it's not. It's just like, it's not that big deal. And I'm not here to diminish that. I'm saying that here to empower us. Like, it's like, I will live. I will be okay. I might get my feelings hurt for a few minutes, but I'm going to be just fine. And I just find it far more empowering to remember that, that terror, it's just not real. It's not real in the sense like I'm going to actually die, even though my brain wants to believe that.
Yeah, I do think there's just this week, right? So my in-laws are in town. We just traveled and they're in town, and we were out at breakfast, and breakfast was taking longer than normal, and yada yada. Well, I had a Facebook Live interview with the biggest name that I had to date coming up, and there was no way I was going to make it back in time, for this, and I'm freaking out. But there's a voice in my head. It's like, maybe this is good. Maybe this is your way out of this. Because I was scared to do this. I was scared to do this.
A little
Facebook
sabotage.
Live. Oh yeah, it would have been such an easy out. Like, I got caught up. I'm sorry. Like, maybe we can reschedule. But I knew I would never do it. But we figured out between us, right? There was a laptop I could borrow. I could tether the internet connection to my phone. And I just left breakfast early. So I left breakfast early. I sat on the docks in Olympia, Washington, with the sailboats behind me and the Olympic Mountains. And I tethered the internet connection to my phone, logged into my Facebook Live, and I did the interview.
You made it work. And
I made it work. And again, before getting set up for that, I was like, oh my God, I had that I'm gonna die feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this isn't how I planned it. This isn't okay. And, but I kicked my ass enough to say, this is not a big deal. The worst case scenario is it doesn't work, or you totally look like an asshole during the interview, which is totally possible,
Mm-hmm.
But so what?
I just love that. I can make excuses, or I can do whatever it takes. Like, there really is that split. And I think a lot of us we hang around so many people that are like, the culture is about making excuses.
Yeah.
And there's very few of us that are like, no, I'm going to do whatever it takes. And are we surrounding ourselves with people that have that mindset? Like, I'm going to do whatever it takes. And when you surround yourself with those types of people, like, it's a lot harder to make excuses. It's a lot harder to bullshit ourselves. We just do whatever it takes and you get it done. And you've really been a guy in the group that's really raised the level. It's hard to make excuses. It's hard to buy into our fears when you're showing up every week and doing these, with these types of examples of how you're stepping it up. And I thank you for that. It's been inspiring.
Thanks. It's hard work, but it's always worth it,
I just find it, I don't know. I think I don't know if it's any easier to make excuses and then live with ourselves. That nagging, like, fuck, I know I could have done something. To me, that's hard. I'd much rather go swing and miss.
Yeah. I think my mantra throughout and again, I married a crazy woman, and I mean that well, you know what that's like, don't you? I've listened to you and Allison talk on the podcast.
I don't know if she's crazy. What do you mean by that?
Passionate.
Passionate. Okay.
Fired up.
Okay.
No, and again, like I said, I mean this in the most loving way possible.
Oh
so,
yeah. You're fucked now, man.
Yeah. I've stepped in it now. No, like she moved around her whole life. You know what I mean? So she lived in Washington, and then we met in New York City, and then we lived we had a 20-acre farm because, we wanted to try our hand at farming. We didn't even get into that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we made our way out to Washington, and then we decided to stop renting our house and go full time in an RV so we can, kind of see the country,
man.
and stuff like that. I know it's batshit, but she's infected me with this wanderlust as well.
Yeah.
And I think our mantra through it all is like no regrets, because the feeling of regret is far worse than getting. I think the feeling of regret is far worse than getting into something and being like, well, that didn't work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like I'd rather go see, like you said, let me go see it. I want to work for this hotshot agency. Let me go see. Like that's my thing. Like let's see. I'd rather see and find out and get on the other side of it and move forward than always wonder. I just that wondering or that regret, like you said, that's the thing that doesn't work for me. So yeah, I like that you're doing the RV thing because my wife and I planned to do that, and then we got pregnant. But you guys waited until you had a kid, and then you got in the RV.
Yeah, well, so that's one of those ideas that was always on the back burner. We were always like, yeah, maybe we can do the RV thing. Like that's such a hot thing to do right now too. I know that if you spend any time on Pinterest or Instagram, you see these young, good-looking couples like sipping their coffee with a mountain behind them, and they're like, "Oh, just living
life's so easy." I grew up thinking living in a trailer wasn't that red hot. Like that was, but now it's come around.
Oh no, the trailers now are sexy. They got all kinds of things in them. So, but it's about where it's parked, And but it's an adjustment too.
How much do you guys run into swingers? And like I just imagine that. When I see these trailers, I just figure like, oh, those are all swinger colonies. Like, is that true? Maybe that was a movie I saw when I was 14 or something. I don't know. Yeah,
I mean, I think every time I see a hot tub, I think of swingers.
Okay.
I don't know so much about trailers, but hot tubs. If there's a hot tub somewhere, I'm always like,
if I see a bunch of trailers parked near a pond or a lake, I'm like, oh, it's going down.
Interesting.
Maybe it's just email me. That's true.
Right. Is there a hidden desire?
Could be maybe working on some deep stuff. I can feel some tears coming on now and a slight erection. Well, I just ruined your interview. But all right, my man. Well, where do we find out more if somebody's interested in using Member Vault? Where do we go? What do we got?
Yeah, I mean, the main thing is to go to membervault.co, and that kind of gives you kind of the gist. There's a lot of course platforms out there.
But yours is better.
Well, clearly. But I mean, yeah, better for what you want, right? If you want the quick get your course up in 5 minutes thing, I'll send you the link to Teachable or, Kajabi or one of those other things. They'll get you up in 5 minutes and you have a payment and that's it. MemberVault isn't that, right? MemberVault is for the person that's serious about running their course and getting those numbers that matter and keeping their students engaged so they complete the courses. Most of our clients have already had courses or they're coming onto it for the first time, but they're serious. They don't want to just kick something out the door. You're
not trying to go for the widest end of the funnel. You know who the people are that you want to work with. These are the professionals. These aren't the dabblers. You've been building software for those serious people, the like I said, the professionals for years, and so that you're building a tool for them instead of I got to have everybody. This is a tool for everybody. You know who you're working with, and you're building something that's very high quality. It's almost bespoke in that way that they can come in and create it in such a way that it fits just for them and their business. And I just appreciate that. I think that trying to appeal to everybody is a recipe for disaster. That's my personal opinion. So
we ran into that as well when we first started doing it. Casting the net too wide, it was a mistake.
Awesome. Mike Kelly, membervault.co. Thanks so much, buddy.
Thank you, Tripp.
If these interviews are helping you, then please visit The New Man on iTunes and leave us a positive review so others can discover the show more easily. Thanks for listening.